Kristel, something that proved to be helpful in organizing distance learning certainly is our experience with our digital way the Estonia exists. How that helped us to quickly get used to the new reality.
Thank you for the question, and sorry about the technical deviation. As always, this kind of restarting helps, but in our situation, actually everything that we had done so far helped a lot. And to look back, when we started to look back what we actually did differently or more that helped us to cope with the current situation, we realized that since 2014, since our new strategy was taken into force, a lot of right things have happened. So what we did with our strategy, presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
And as I said, that we had this digital transformation in our education strategy already since 2014. So what we said as important aspects in there was that first we considered a priority the digital skills. And by digital skills, I don't mean a computer literacy, but I mean more than computer literacy. When we first started with the digital skills or talking about the digital skills, then a lot of schools and teachers asked what will be necessary now, because computer literacy was already there, and schools taught children computer literacy. And I will come back to this later. And secondly, the second pillar we considered necessary was empowering education with learning content. With learning content and contemporary methodology. So this was the aspect to take into consideration, because when we talk about digital tools, then also the method and learning design is different than the one in the traditional learning and teaching. And last but not least, we have paid a lot of attention to internet connection, for safe internet connection, different Wi-Fi networks within schools, but as well the devices within schools. What we realized with this experience was that even when we had paid a lot of attention to updating or upgrading schools' infrastructure, digital infrastructure, the weaker spots became evident regarding homes. Because even we knew that our students have digital devices and they have internet connectivity at homes. But then we found out how many students don't have computers. So they have only their smartphones or tablets. But occasionally this is not sufficient for doing homework or schoolwork. This was something that we realized very fast. And what happened was that firstly, the schools borrowed very quickly necessary equipment to the families who were in need. Secondly, also the civil society initiatives, the third sector, initiated one program to help the ones in need. So it found very fast sufficient solutions. So when we talk about what was needed for this distance learning, then for sure it was digital pedagogy. What helped us a lot was that in Estonia, schools and teachers are very autonomous. They are free to choose their own tools. It's in the national curriculum what kind of learning outcomes need to be achieved. But how those will be achieved, it's up to the school and teachers. So in a normal situation, teachers are already used to choosing their own tools and adapting to new circumstances. So it helped us a lot in the current situation that teachers already were used to finding some other ways and learning how to cope with new situations. Secondly, what we have done is upskilling support to teachers, because a lot is talked about the teachers' digital skills. but how it's actually supported is very, very important. One could do just training programs available for teachers, but this is not sufficient. What we have done here is, of course, this kind of central training programs, free training programs for teachers, but as well school, tailor-made for schools or school-based training programs. Another measure that has been remarkably useful is this kind of mentorship practice in our schools. That not in every school, but in a lot of schools, there is an educational technologist who is digitally more competent teacher supporting other teachers how to employ digital tools. And thirdly, the teachers' communities. Sorry, too fast changing pictures. The teachers' communities that for some time already the teachers' communities like math teachers, language learning teachers, and so on, they have contributed to reviewing and producing digital learning materials. They were again familiar with specific tools necessary or to the targeting their own subjects. So also different specialists were on board. And these needed to be supported by e-services, like school management information system that was essential tool for sharing information between homes and schools. Digital learning content available, that is again something that we already introduced in 2015, since when all textbooks had to be made available also in digital format. So the digital textbooks or digital learning materials, like we have our partner here from representing OPIC platform, these materials were available for all schools, despite their location, despite their ownership, wherever there is. And when we talk about the digital competence of students, then of course, this is something that we get back a lot these days from teachers, that even though they were somehow tired already within last years that we talk too much about digital competence, then they are very grateful today that the students have the skills. They have the skills to cope with the distance learning and e-learning within the distance learning. So digital competence is one of the key competencies that we have in our national curriculum. And I have already pointed out some practical tips that were very useful for us. Of course, reliable digital infrastructure, that if you don't have the internet connection, then doing something digitally in virtual environment could be difficult. Of course, there is obstacles. If you have the connectivity, you need to know also what kind of contract agreements are there between teachers and internet service providers and so on. So it gets very intense when the whole country, not only the students are working and learning from the distance, but also the parents. So it's a challenge to every infrastructure. Empowering the front runners is that we very well knew who are the front runners who could support others, and we empowered them. Giving guidelines and support available fast, even the guidelines saying that doing something that you prefer is very good. So just guidelines, very clear guidelines to the school. We also asked very much about feedback, but we just didn't ask about feedback, but we also took the feedback and reacted to that. So there is no point of asking feedback and do nothing about it. So this was our input from schools, that what we need to support them furthermore. Cooperation with schools and private sector is something that is extremely helpful, that even if some services are not operational, then the schools and e-services communicate very fast and everything will work out fine. And what is very elegant in our system, that I have replied a lot of times to different ones interested in our experience, is that our key factor is that we have small, reliable e-services. We have not built one monstrum to work on. So it also has made service more reliable and trustworthy. And of course, when we are not supposed to look at the current situation only, but also look towards the future. Then we have also the startup ecosystem to support the rise of new services in place. So if there is any gap at this point that we see that is not filled and should be filled, then there will be a service to support schools in this gap. But this would be, at this point, all from me. Looking forward to the questions.